everybody, and God bless. Today's topic is going to be as African Americans, our love hate relationship with the United States of America. Before we get started, there are some books I want to recommend to people and documentaries. The 1619 Project, I know came out a couple years ago. It documented our from being indigent servants to what we're going through now, through the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement. Also, books by Malcolm X and definitely Martin Luther King. Um, Everything in this country is not all bad. One of the things that I do love about America is it's starting to have a little bit of diversity. I know that the dominant society is not liking that. It's going to have to be competition for jobs and things like that. But I do love the diversity that we have different people, different backgrounds. The world would be very boring if everyone was the same. And it's good to have diversity and to have different opinions because it'll be very boring and nothing would ever some things has to change because the way you treated us in 1865 cannot be the way you treat us now. There are some things still, the school to prison pipeline, injustices in healthcare, and we were talking about uh, the wealth disparity, not just for black people, for poor people, because I said there are poor people in Mississippi or the Appalachian Mountains that have it just as bad, but because they feel they have the complexion that they don't have the same plights that we have. Uh, you know, so in rural areas in Montana, it's hard for them to get health care because going from Billings, Montana to where you're living at can be hard for you to get the resources, the internet, and things like that. So there are a lot of disparities as Americans, but that's my few takes on that. Courtney, what are some of your takes you have about love hate relationship in America?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you discussed, I do have a love-hate relationship for America. And part of the things that I love is that we had the opportunity to build our HBCUs here in the United States and provide opportunities for African Americans to educate themselves and then go into the workforce. And then there's some Ivy Leagues that created partnerships with HBCUs to allow those who graduated from an HBCU to have an opportunity to attend an Ivy League school. And as someone who graduated from both the Ivy League and a HBCU, I see the importance of those collaborations. While I love the prestigious of HBCUs, I also know that Ivy Leagues offer a different type of opportunity for people in the United States. So that's something that I really love. One thing that I dislike about America is um, the culture vultures.
Hmm.
It's considered ghetto for an African American to wear their natural hair, but when a white person wears their hair or braid it, it's stylish or it's trendy. So a lot of times the beauty standards are very different, and a lot of the times the beauty standards that have been created started off in the Black and Brown communities. And the thing that I get upset about when it comes to braids is that it has a very strong historical context to slavery. The braid started off as a route for Black people to escape slavery, and they would use the braids as a guide to get to freedom. And then it also has a strong tie in Africa where it is taught to protect your hair because it's sacred. So in Africa, your hair is sacred. So they braid their hair to protect it and then allow it for it to grow long and strong because it has very low manipulation to the hair. So when I see, people of a different culture rock these hairstyles and it gets in vogue, it makes it to the Met Gala red carpet, but they don't understand the history of why we wear our hair that way. So that's something that I really dislike. And then one thing that I want to touch on right now, because it's in the news, is how they're treating Marilyn Mosby right now.
Hmm.
Um, and we've seen, and I'm not going to use names because I don't believe in giving them any spotlight, but there have been white people that have done the exact same thing, and they will not face any jail time, and she's looking up to 40 years in prison for using her own money to purchase a home. So there is these double standards that are still deeply rooted in the American political systems and in the judicial systems that I think that we still need to fight for. But while I say all of that, I have to say I agree with you with America becoming more diverse and embracing its diversity. While it's just a small step in the right direction, we have Hulu and Netflix that highlight different heritage months. So during February in June, they highlight Black stories in honor of Black History Month and Juneteenth. And right now is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And right now they're highlighting voices and stories from those in those communities. So I do see a bit more celebration of our diversity, but it's not where I think it should be.
And I know that also in corporate America, DEI and the
Mhm.
inclusion, they're having a hard time with it. But like I said, with when you had things your way for 400 years or since accepting this country, and then predominantly been white, it's kind of hard to the Me Too movement and everything else. And to me, you got to be careful what you say at work and be sensitive because just because I may not find it offensive doesn't mean that someone else will find it offensive. And even though I'm a warehouse worker in shipping, they still have those courses on harassment.
Mhm.
Also, the joke I might say separate still might offend someone if they hear it. So a lot of times, you know, we got to be very careful. As black people in this country, that we've tried to assimilate and make white people feel comfortable. I've always took, no other race has to say what I tell you guys, that you have to work twice as hard to go half as far. And when you do make it, uh, they always say it's because of affirmative action or because there was some other standard that was given to you that wasn't given to a white person. But they never talk about legacy and things like that. That most times you didn't get into Harvard or Yale's because someone else had legacy, whether it was the Bush family or the Kennedys, because they have money in that school, they have someone that worked at that school, they were able to get that scholarship. So it wasn't a black person or Asian person that stopped you from getting that. So I get tired of them saying that our accomplishment is because of the color of our skin, which has been most of the diversity since we've been here. So I always tell people when they call someone a coon, they took my last name from me, my heritage and my beliefs. They tell me to go back to Africa. Where am I go to? No one in Africa is named Henderson. No one's named Mark. So you've taken that from me. So I've assimilated to America of capitalism. Like I said, when I get paid on Friday, my check goes to Bank One or Chase or Wells Fargo when I pay my mortgage, and I shop at Amazon and Walmart like every other American. So I still have those American views of capitalism. So that's something that I have to embrace because I'm born here. But
Mhm.
but I can reach out to do Kwanzaa and also Islam and blend that. But a lot of times with Africans and diaspora, we have this mistrust of each other. They think that they only see the worst of us on television, whether it's you know that culture. I don't believe everybody in Africa is living in a hut. There are cities in Africa uh, that are like New York or Los Angeles. They may not have the infrastructure they have, but it's still just like that. So they have internet, they have things of that. So we have a mistrust of each other, and on looking at ourselves from just their view. And I think that's very negative. That's what I hate about America is that they only show us as athletes or rappers when there are people like most black men like me go to work, pay their taxes, and try to send their kids to school and want their kids to do better than they have. I
Mhm.
want you to own a home. I want you to enjoy the fruits of my labor and your own labor. So that's one thing that I do care about America, but I just hate that you know we don't get all we really want is our to be treated fairly. I think that's all. Getting reparations, I don't think we're gonna get it. We can talk about it all day long, but I think don't discourage me as my skin is a factor or what your view of it is a factor. Because most white people discriminate. When we move in the neighborhoods, they move out.
Mhm.
Like Martin Luther King said, the most worst day is Sunday because everybody goes to their mosque, their churches, or whatever. So you know, we're never we never want America unless it's a tragedy like 9/11 or something like that. We seem to come together or times of war. So a lot of our soldiers that went to World War One and Two were not given the GI Bill, not given the same luxuries that Donald Trump was talking about making America again. But America was great after World War Two, with Japan and Germany and all these countries were had to be rebuilt. and the white GIs were able to get student loans and GI Bills on homes that created a great middle class where a lot of our black soldiers were not given that opportunity. So that's one thing I hate about America is that they promise us one thing, but they don't come through with their promise.
Mhm,
That's been from the Civil War to the American Revolution. So the one thing I hate about America is the injustice. But what I'm proud about us as black people is that we have overcome despite it all. And despite not giving the advantage they have, we still uplift each other. We still to whether what God you want to believe in, we believe in our whether it's Islam or Christianity, we find strength in each other. And I hate now that, we're being divided because, men, women and things like that are women make more money than men or the financial divide, and that really shouldn't be because the civil rights movement worked when we all work together.
mhm,
You can be a Pullman porter and your wife can be a domestic person cleaning houses, but you still can work hard to send your kid to a black college. So, and those, what I'm more proud of America is me as Black Americans of what we has persevered through our faith, each other, and God. I hope we don't lose that. And I
mhm,
think that's what's so important about that 1619 project that it talked about. That even though those American soldiers were not give Black American soldiers were not given proper training or whatever, but they still fought for this country, and they were hoping that when they come home, that people will see them as equals, but
mhm.
they didn't, because and that was very hurtful. I think there was a serviceman, airman,
Yeah.
that was shot. And, I think it was a no knock warrant. And
Mhm,
this is a man that fought for this country,
mhm,
and he was a good guy, a good black man, and that was the injustice. And we fight so many injustices. And this is a little quote from a woman. She says, "I'm weary of living in constant state of anxiety, fear because I have black and brown men in my life, and for us to live like that, to not know if our sons or daughters can come home safely, whether it's a interaction with a cop or anybody."
mhm,
And hate crimes are up by 36%. Everybody talking about the Asians and Jewish people. I have no problem against them, but most of the hate crimes are for us,
mhm,
and no one. And a lot of times we don't report it because we just say that's just a part of our life. So, and only 9%. And I say only, but 9% of it's anti-Jewish hate. So we tend to we tend to get most of the hate, and um, and that's one of the things I hate about America. So just the injustices in housing, medical. One of the reasons I work 2 jobs before is because I want to have primary and secondary insurance in order for you guys to get, the proper health care. Because Black people don't seem to get the best health care, through our system. That's why I had 2 insurances,
mhm,
primary and secondary, and it shouldn't be that way for no American. It used to be a time in this country that one income can make it, but now it takes 2 people to work, and you already know the price of rent is sometimes more than what people pay in their mortgage.
yeah.
So that's injustice, not just for black people. That's just an injustice for all Americans. And I think that, but because our politicians deal with their corporate donors,
Mhm,
the Goldman Sachs and everything else, that affects us as everything. You're more worried about CTE, critical race theory, but your kids not getting a public education. Your children not going to be able to do better than you.
mhm,
So I think that as American people, with this election coming up, we seem to not keep our minds on what's important. Yeah, I hate that P Diddy did what he posted, what he did to his ex girlfriend. But as black people, we got to vote about these school boards. I think in Baton Rouge, they are trying to separate from the black white people trying to create their own district, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's the people that got Roland Martin for school boards and things like that to try to separate us from the white communities and
mhm.
keep their resources. So that's something as we as black people, we got to be very vigilant on that. So,
Mhm. So you touched on a lot of things, but and I want to go through each one of them because I think they deserve time on this podcast. But the first one that you mentioned was talking about fighting for this country, which we've done for a very long time. I have my reason. I stand for the playing of the national anthem, but I have my own reasons for it. I know that there are some that kneel or turn their back to the flag, and they have their right to do that because this country for a very, very long time has constantly disrespected the Black population, and they treat us like second class citizens. But the reason why I stand for the flag is because we had people sacrifice their lives and their time to fight for this country and to defend democracy. And that's why I choose to stand and place my hand over my heart because, Paw, who was one of our closest veterans in the family, fought to protect this country. So, but I also have friends that are in the military, Air Force, Army, the Navy, and even they face injustices in the military institutions. And it's very hard to wake up every day and be deployed to defend a country that does not offer you the freedoms that you're fighting to protect. So I wanted to hear you. I mean, I know you haven't
Mm.
served in the military, but what are your thoughts on them recruiting Black people to, and brown, I'll include them in, all people of color, to fight for a country that denies them democracy every single time?
Well, I'm gonna quote my father. I asked my father this many years ago when he went to Korea, and how about he says, "I fight for the people that love me, and I also fight for the same people that call me the N word." When you're in the military, you know there are no atheists in that foxhole because you're fighting for you to get home safe and for the man or the woman next door to you to get home safe. Everyone fights for this country for different reasons. Some people fight for that GI Bill because they cannot afford to go to college, and they can go to Meharry or any other school to use that GI Bill. So everyone don't fight for God and country and the flag. So everyone fights for different reasons. So that person, I know you had some friends that went to Meharry after they got their GI Bill. So, I was going to go in '87 because I knew that, college wasn't my thing, but I was going to fight for my future children if I was, for you guys or whatever, to have that opportunity to go to school on my job. Because I know that your Aunt Vance and Verna from my dad, I think they went, and then you got a little benefit from him serving in the military. So like I said, everyone fights for different reasons, and just fight for the people that love you, and fight. Let your sacrifice be of some benefit. So everyone fights for a different reason, and so those things. A gay person has a right to fight for this country. An Asian person, everyone has a right to fight for this country. But my thing is that sometimes our country doesn't only fights for its best interest. Right now we're giving money. We don't get trouble with this. We're giving money to Israel, financing them with weapons to do the people wrong in Palestine. So um, when you fight, you have to make a conscious effort of what you're fighting for, and so that's always been, that was my father's response. And when he told me that, I decided not to, criticize him no more because it did help benefit us. And also, my uncle Frank and Uncle Stanley were Marines, and so they were able to get jobs in the teaching. And my uncle Frank worked as a electrician for Fisher Body, so it did benefit my family. So because everybody fights for different reasons, and maybe your friends fight for those reasons also. But it
Mhm.
is hard. You gave me that hoodie of the Harlem Hellfighters, and I think you should look up that story. So how they weren't given the rights, and then they
Mhm.
got the Purple Heart 20 years after they passed. But
Mhm.
like I say, everyone's fighting for a different reason. And also, Asian people during the Pearl Harbor, they were put in concentration camps. So their plight is not like ours, but they've had some hate after World War II, and things of that, and they've been called racial slurs also. So especially after the pandemic, but we need to get on our country by getting a hate crime for Black people because it took them this forever to get an anti-lynching law passed. So there's been
It
so many.
passed yet? I don't even think it's passed.
I don't know yet either. There's so many things in this. When you know that it's something that's wrong, it should not have to go across political lines. Right is wrong is wrong. So that is something else that I discouraged about America. That should be wrong, wrong. I think it's wrong to bomb a gay club. I think it's bomb to bomb a synagogue. I think it's wrong to take, be- do people of Islam wrong or Catholics. So I think wrong is wrong on every single line, and that's something that we need to get right, regardless. So
Mm.
stop saying. So that's all. I hope that I don't know if I answered the question for your, but like I said, it is hard to fight for a country that
Mhm,
doesn't love you, but everyone has their reasons, and,
mhm,
but also people always talk about the flag and things like that. A lot of our veterans are homeless,
mm,
and they don't get the proper mental. They don't get the mental health that they need. Sometimes I see homeless people, and I ask them, "Well, do you have military service?" And says, "Yeah." And then we care about them to fight, and we care about carrying the flag, but when they get home, they don't get the proper care. I
mhm,
always give to the Wounded Warrior Project and the DIV, disabled veterans. I don't give a lot. I give what I can because of what they've gone through.
mhm,
I said they
mhm,
fight for our country regardless of whether or not they believe what the politicians say or the president, but they do fight
mhm,
for my freedom, and I do appreciate it. They may not like me, but I do appreciate their service, and they have families too. And like I always said, despite what this country has done to us, I'm not going to let that stop me from being the human being that God created me to be.
mhm,
And like I said, I don't get up, and I know neither you or your family, we don't get up saying, "Hey, today I'm going to lynch a white person. Today I'm going to hang them." The God in me is not going to do that. Now, you put your hands on me and my family, that's a different story. But I don't get up in the morning with hate in my heart. I worry more about you guys and healthcare and paying my mortgage than I do about killing someone of a different race. So the God in me, not
mhm.
not that white Jesus, but
Right.
the God in me that I serve that's in my heart. It's not.
Yeah. I said this in many other podcasts, and I'll say it again. A veteran should never have to pay for anything,
No.
ever. That's black, white, purple, polka dot, stripe. I don't care if you fought any period of time for this country. You shouldn't have to worry about a medical bill, a mortgage payment, or anything. And it is quite sad to see and that's my love hate relationship with America, not just for the blacks, but for everyone, is that we are willing to fund and put money and allocate funds to a different initiative, and we constantly turn our backs on those who protected our borders and protected our allies. And I do have conversations with my friends that are in the military, and they do say it's very hard because there's racism
The
on the
military.
basis that they're stationed. And I remember, I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, I said I wanted to join the military.
Mm,
And while I think it's an honorable thing to do, when I went to Fisk, I realized that I couldn't fight for a country that wasn't willing to fight for me. And I figured I would fight and protect democracy a different way because there are many ways that you can do that. You can choose to fight in the armed forces, or you can choose to fight it within the systems. And speaking of the system, before we move on to something else that you had mentioned, is when we get in these places, these high places that you mentioned, the Ivy Leagues, or to be in affluent positions, we get then our character gets attacked rather than our stance.
mhm,
And I was really baffled. I mean, I was speechless after this situation where Marjorie Taylor Greene attacked
mhm,
Jasmine Crockett
mhm,
and talked about her false eyelashes and
mhm.
just being snarky, just being
Right.
condescending. And I just thought that was tasteless
Mhm,
and completely uncalled for. But then when Jasmine clapped back, then
mhm,
that's when everyone else wants to get involved. And that's my love-hate relationship, is that you constantly poke the bear, and
mhm,
then when someone retaliates, now we are told to calm down or to don't take it that seriously, but you attacked on purpose.
mhm,
And I feel bad for Jasmine Crockett, and she's a fellow Divine Nine member.
mhm,
So as a sister in Christ and as a sister in the Divine Nine organization, I support her in clapping back because Black people, as Malcolm X said, Black women are the most disrespected and least protected group of people in the world, not just the United States, in the world, we are the least protected. And not one single man
mhm.
stood up for her. And the only person that stood up for her was AOC. and she stuck up, and that's something that I dislike because you're not going to constantly belittle us and think that it's okay.
That's but the thing about that is that when you do fight back, you call the disgruntled angry black woman, and
Mhm,
that's or same thing with me being called a conspiracy brother. I'm always race baiting, but like I said, you poked the bear and then it came back on you, and those black congressmen should have defended her
mhm,
all day long, and so the one senator from South Carolina who for Trump, whatever, he should have defended her on many occasions, and
mhm,
also that was also but the military. There's so many times that those military bases in the South are named after Jefferson Davis,
mhm,
Confederate uh, soldiers or generals that wanted to separate from this country. But yeah, could you imagine being a black person going to the Jefferson Davis or the General Lee training facility for these people that didn't say that you were human and didn't want to have your right to exist as a man. So that's also very disrespectful. You have some schools and Confederate flags that are named after these soldiers or whatever, and in Germany, there's nothing to honor Adolf Hitler for what him and the Third Reich did. So no one should ever honor someone that's that evil against humanity. So that's also a disservice to our servicemen to have to go to a camp in the South that is named after those traitors. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you lost the war, like you said. History is on the side of the winners, and you lost.
mhm,
And that's just what it is.
mhm,
So yeah, but she should have been defended. I'm glad she clapped back on her. And
mhm,
I'm so glad it is. But we're gonna have to come together and fight regardless. Come together when it matters.
mhm. It's a shame that every day it has to be a fight,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like every day I have to fight as a African American in this country. It's n it's very rare that I have a peaceful day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why, and because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I do want to share this really quickly, is that we do need to take care of our mental health,
Yeah.
especially in the society that we live in. We do need to take time to disconnect and disassociate from the negativity that's constantly in and around us. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make mention of that. So the other thing that, and I was just talking to my good friend about this yesterday, is the portrayal of Black people on TV shows and how shows that put us in a positive light don't make it past season one. And one of the things that my friend and I were talking about yesterday is that, um, and I love these shows and I feel bad for watching them, but I do make sure to support other shows. But Boondocks can run for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I haven't watched it yet, but Steph Curry, I think, co-produced the show Good Times, a remake of that, and I heard that it was, disrespectful to Black people and it put us in a negative light. But these shows can run for a long time or get the green light to be aired. But shows like Run the World, which I'm not sure you probably watched, but it was on Stars, had four Black strong women navigating academia or their careers, their love life, and it was very positive. And I actually enjoyed watching the show. And when I realized that it wasn't getting renewed for a second season, I was a little hurt. And then there's another show called The Other Woman or The Other Girl, I think, on Hulu. And it kind of was like a sci-fi, and I'm not a big fan of sci-fi, but it was something different than the drug-related gang banging types of shows. Kindred didn't make it for another season. There were a few others, but and I'll make sure to put it in the comments afterwards. But what I'm trying to say is that when we are portrayed in a positive light, we don't get renewed for a second season. But shows like BMF, Power, The Wire, these shows get renewed for multiple seasons. And I'm kind of tired of seeing us destroy the Black community on these TV shows. So I would love to hear your take on that.
I'm tired of it too, but I'm gonna have to give a plug to Roland Martin. He has his Black Entertainment Star Part that he has black shows and things like that that do showcase um, up and coming black directors. So he has. I know some people don't always think. Some people think he's a Democratic Shield, but he does have um, certain black entertainers that he promotes in that. I think when me and mother growing up, they had shows like the Jeffersons that ran for a long time, the Cosby Show, A Different World, Living Single, Rock.
Mhm,
There were a lot of shows in the '90s, early 2000s, even Moesha, The Game, that that were on television. It did have good and bad portrayals of us, but that is very frustrating that they don't, but they only show us as gangsters, or they always show us as that. But you just really have to look at those documentaries. You have to look real deep. You told me about that one movie about the guy that did the Martin Luther King, the March on Washington.
mhm.
It wasn't ever that movie. I don't remember.
I can't remember it either.
It was about his relationship with Martin Luther King and how he was
Oh,
behind.
Bayard Rustin.
Yes, yes. So that was something you told me about, and then and we look at it right away. So there are some shows, but it seems like we seem to gravitate towards the negativity.
Mhm,
People gravitate towards negativity more than positivity, but you just really have to look for those things. Um, it's okay to look at a show that portrays us, but long as that's not
right.
the only thing that you can portray. Uh,
Mhm,
Al Pacino, played in The Godfather, but he also did other characters. Denzel could play Malcolm X, or he can play the boxer falsely accused of murder, but then he also can play in Training Day. So as long as I'm not portrayed as the same person, the same character all the time, you have to have range. Sometimes it's hard to play the villain than the good guy. So as long as we're not portrayed as the same stereotype all the time, you know, one of
mhm,
my favorite actors is Keanu Reeves. He can be Neo in the Matrix, and he can be John Wick, and he was also in a couple of romantic comedies. So long as we're not portrayed as just one thing, but also as we as people, we have to tell you know the people that, hey, I'm not going to watch this because it shows us in a negative light all the time. So like I'll tell you before, um, Adele or Taylor Swift are never portrayed the way that Megan Thee Stallion or somebody else, or somebody else is, or Lizzo. So we tend to think that sells, but there are a lot of decent people like yourself and me. Like I said, it's okay if you want to like Gucci Man or like Kendrick Lamar or whatever, but it's okay to like Cars One or other people that think about positivity. You just have to really look for it. So
mhm.
it's,
While
it's,
on the, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
So while on the topic of movies and TV shows, because you're a lot older than me,
Mhm.
so back in your time, there were a lot of movies about black exploitation.
Mhm.
What do you remember of that and how
Oh,
America portrayed us in
oh,
those?
the Mac. But there are also good black movies like Sounder,
Mhm,
Cooley High. There was a Murphy's character in Boomerang, and Eddie Murphy also played a cop, very positive. So Superfly,
mhm,
or Shaft. So they were, like I said, you had that, but they also balanced it with something else that was positive.
mhm,
You had James Earl Jones playing the boxer, the first heavyweight champion. Uh, you had Sidney Poitier uh, in Heat of the Night. So he also won an Oscar from films. So we had a variety of things that if you wanted to see Sidney Poitier, or if you want to see Max Julian in the Mac or whatever, or Cooley High or whatever, you could have or Sounder or The Learning Tree. So you had different genres of movies that you could like, and also you had black actors that went into mainstream. Like Richard Pryor was in, I think, Superman 3. Also, Eddie Murphy, and so we had actors that did venture into popular culture, or they crossed over, that they did black, like City Point, they did black films and also white films, so that we could also go both in and out. So for my day, I enjoyed I see different genres of movies. Same thing with music. I was talking about, like, I can go from Anita Baker to Whitney Houston to Melissa Morgan, um, Shirley Murdoch. So same thing with music, from Luther to Freddie Jackson to Prince to Michael Jackson to Al DeBar. So we can go even something as far as George Clinton with P-Funk, all funkadelic. So you could have, I think, the diversity in the genre of music. Like I said, same thing when me and mother were coming up MTV. I could like Prince and Duran Duran, or other artists. So I think that we had a diversity as far as in the 1970s, that Richard Roundtree played Shaft, and he was a private eye, and he was cool, and then he also had a movie called Shaft Go to Africa. So he was our first black hero. And of course, um, we had Blade with Wesley Snipes, and of course that came Black Panther years later. So we had our black heroes and our black superstars, and so we had that, and so also Jamie Foxx and Django. So like I said, you can have a diversity in everything. So it just depends on what you like. We had Leon Kennedy in the penitentiary movie. So, you can have your guilty pleasures, but then you can also have your educational things that enlighten you, with
Mhm.
James Earl Jones and I think Humphrey Johnson, the very first black heavyweight title. And we had documentaries about Joe Louis beating Maximum, and also the Jesse Owens story. So we had diversity, that, like I said, you could watch things that you want to watch.
Mhm.
And also, of course, you love Malcolm X and I'm sorry, Denzel and Malcolm X movie, directed by Spike Lee. So
Yeah.
you can have diversity, but you just have to look for it. And like I said, most of us are popular people, but it seems that the negativity seems to sell. And I hate that other people in other countries who never come to the United States see me and think that I'm a rapper, or I'm this, I'm that. And I'm totally not that.
Mhm. That's a perfect segue into the next thing that I want to talk about the love-hate relationship with the United States. So, as a country that prides themselves on being the land of opportunity, we also provide those opportunities to those that are seeking refuge within our borders. One thing, and I'll keep it confined. I won't, let it go too far out.
Hmm.
But one thing that I have learned just in my own experiences, in my professional experience, is that when we have new arrivals coming into America, they already have these trainings and these thoughts to think that they're better than African Americans. And they come in already knowing that we are the most discriminated against, and that we are the not the model minority, because we're not that. The problem minority, that's what they call us. We're the problem minority. And for me, it's very frustrating to, like a conversation I had with mom earlier, is that Blacks built this country off our backs. And to still not be respected by our white counterparts, then
Hmm.
we get disrespected by those coming into this country that have less than us, or maybe just as much as us. So I wanted to just briefly talk on that and get your thoughts about that. And because we are in a current crisis with um, being able to place our new arrivals in the proper care that they need.
Well, first of all, what I tell them, every benefit that other people have has been on the backs of black people.
Mhm,
Gay marriage is basically on the loving case
mhm,
of an interracial couple that couldn't get married because one was black, one was white. And the Supreme Court said that that was discriminatory. They were not able to get benefits and things because their marriage wasn't recognized.
mhm,
So basically, same sex marriage was based on that case, of that case that went to the Supreme Court. the civil rights bill that helps out and mostly helps out black people with affirmative action mostly helps white women. And also, and in the civil rights bill, it's not just for black people, it's for people with disabilities, it's
Mhm.
with people with different orientations. So everything that you get is built on the sacrifices of black men and black women that made these strides that got beaten and had their houses bound, Medgar Evers and everybody else, for you to have that benefit. So I'm gonna go a little gooder with this. So put some respect on our name. So if you want, so put some respect on your name and my name because of the people that you benefit from it. So if you're going to look down upon us, know your history. That's why critical race theory, it's this history about black people and about is so important. So that's the first thing that one of the things you should know, and stop thinking of the stereotype of what the heck they think. Stop looking at television and listening to the alt right and listen to the Republicans or whatever that want you to think this, because we are the superheroes
Mhm.
of this country. We have an integrated army because of us. We
Mhm.
have all kind every strive that we've made. I've always said that the reason that white people fear us is because one, all of the stuff you did to us, they're afraid it's going to come back on them.
Mhm.
You better hope that I have God still in my life because I would love to do the things you did to us. So that's what makes me mad about that. But also, we need, I know in Chicago and other places, sanctuary cities, that they, in New York, you need to put some respect on name and understand that the reason that you have these things is because of the sacrifice of the slaves. Um, for you to able to get into a college based on your SAT scores was based on us.
Mhm.
I always tell people all the time that after World War II, when the European Jews came up here, they went to historic black colleges because they were not able to go to predominantly white colleges, and they had to hide their identity. But they were accepted with us. We had to stop being the superheroes for everyone. We had to start looking for our own agenda and our own self-preservation. So if that means that I'm a black nationalist or whatever, I'm black first, then so be it. I hope we don't get taken down for this. But
Mhm.
those are the things that we need to strive for. And I hate that. But we're also gonna get on our congressmen and people.
Mhm.
They're trying to replace us as in the Democratic Party, whatever. But it's not going to help because you're going to give all type of if you came here because you were in a bad country or the government was bad. I understand it. Follow the procedures to become here legally,
Mhm.
but also don't put us down because you'll give them millions of dollars to stay in healthcare, but you won't give us reparations or you won't fix our schools.
Mhm.
No, no kid should go to school hungry, and there are so many kids that depend on uh, that reduced lunch or free lunch program.
Mhm.
Head Start works, but it was never properly funded after the 1970s. So, those are things. Once again, those things that make. And we had to take care of our people first, and then we'll
Mhm.
take care of that. I know that's a controversial thing, but
Yes.
you know, I'm black people immigrants, but we came here by no choice of our own.
Yeah. I
You
agree.
decide, you decided, but you know, like I said, I wasn't. Our people weren't given the choice. So there was some indentured service, but for most of the part, and I get so tired of Irish people or other races saying they were slaves too. Well, if you're white, you can kind of blend in, but if you're black, you can't blend in. You got to have freedom papers and everything else. So, uh,
Mhm.
I'm tired of people telling us to go back to Africa. Why don't you go back to Ireland? Go back to England. So,
Mhm.
you left your country because of religious and persecution, and you didn't want to pay taxes. So, no,
Mhm.
I wasn't. We weren't given a choice,
Mhm.
and we were separated, and that's kind of why we still have this mistrust of each other right now, from colorism to everything else that we have. So,
Mhm.
yeah, they can miss me with that.
Yeah. So you had mentioned, and I agree. I think, and that's why it's so important to not take out DEI and critical race theory because we forget how we got the freedoms that we have and how other minorities get to have the freedoms that we have. That, I mean, literally the civil rights amendments, because I think there were like three that came out of that movement, all help women and people of color. And when we forget our history, we are bound to repeat it
Mhm.
because we haven't educated ourselves. And one thing, I'm not against immigration. I think if you are coming from a country that it's unsafe and it's not settled properly, absolutely come through the legal routes. And because this is the land of opportunity and the land of the free. But I think you should, not I think you should respect those from this country and don't fall into the pattern of being discriminatory. One thing that I also have a love-hate relationship with is when it comes to election time. And you always know when it's an election season because you start seeing certain politicians start speaking at HBCU commencements. You start seeing
Mhm.
certain things go up or certain rhetoric that goes around African Americans, and we've always been the target for voting. It's
Mhm.
always these broken promises and things that certain initiatives that they say that they're going to do, and they speak a good deal. I mean, I know that they're lying to me, that I can say, but they speak a good deal right around November and or maybe October, then getting into November, and then we vote these people in, and then that same tune it has disappeared. Those promises that were given to us are no longer initiatives, and it's a constant cycle of we need you to get out and vote. Let's get
Mhm.
out and vote. And one thing, and I love the NAACP. I've been a member since high school, but one thing that I really dislike is that they push voting.
Mhm.
They push for us to register to vote, to get out and learn about the issues and the candidates that that's going to be on the ballot. But there's never any conversation about holding these elected officials accountable. And that's where I started my business, is because yes, we have enough organizations to get us out to vote. They bus us out to these polling locations, but then after November, it goes silent. There's no more conversation on these things that were promised to us or these opportunities. Why do I have to constantly keep writing to my elected officials to do what they said that they were going to do? That's where one of the biggest parts of my love-hate relationship is, that because I believe in democracy, I believe in getting out and vote and participating in the democratic process. But don't lie to me when you know damn well you're not going to do what you said
I
you
do.
were going
I know today Biden is going to speak at the commencement for the Morehouse.
to
I
do.
think I think that there's a possibility that those young black men might turn their backs on him while he's going to speak. When Biden was elected, he said that black people had his back and he's going to do things to help us.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we had to, like I said, I to vote our best interest. I know if you're not going to give us reparations, that this is people would say, well, I didn't own a slave, I didn't do that, but you did benefit
Mm-hmm.
from it. So, it's not you doing it, it's the government saying that we were wrong and this is what is owed. You can't spend billions and trillions of dollars on Israel and the war in Russia and not spend money on education. So there are a lot of things that, you know, there's no, like I said, a lynching bill or hate crimes against us. And I know a lot of people, a lot of black people said that they're not going to vote this time, and they would say, "Well, I discredit anybody that um that sacrificed you with a vote." But why am I voting and you're not going to do nothing for me? Or we got to vote for the lesser of two evils. I know some black people are going to vote for Trump. So I said, well, we've been dealing with this mess for 40 years. What is another 4 years to him going to take? So I understand, but the Democrats is going to have to give us some tangibles, and
Mm-hmm.
as black people in the grassroots like yourself and other podcasters are just telling us this, that, you're going to have to give black people something. You know, people talk about the Trump, you know, they got three Supreme Court justices with they got people on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what Trump's 4 years was, to reverse abortion, uh,
Mm-hmm.
reverse some voting rights, defunding historic Black colleges
Mhm.
and giving the police more money and instead of giving them more training or defunding the police. So that's why. So when I'm saying, okay, I can't give you reparations, but I'm going to do my damnedest, the Black Caucus, to make sure that there is there's a hate crime law against Black people, and you're going to pass it in all states, and we're going to enforce it. So, like I said, I should not have to fear for you or my son or my nephews or anybody, to be killed by white supremacists, whether it's in Buffalo or Florida or all these mass shootings towards us.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing. If you can't give me reparations, make sure that I'm safe. Make sure that the education system is equal for everybody. Make sure the sciences and the STEM research is for every student. You know, there's no reason that I don't know if people live in Ohio. It's wrong for the school district in Dublin, which is a predominantly rich area in Ohio, to
Mhm.
get more money than someone that lives in the Southwest City schools. We already said that the way that we fund schoolings is unconstitutional because it's based on property tax and or levies or those things that we talk about raising levies, raising the price of your home to pay for these schools. Okay, if you're going to raise the price of my home with these levies and my taxes, then every kid should at least be a B plus student.
Mhm.
Even the children that have special needs, make sure that they're able to get a job in the workforce or those things. I want, like any other person, I want the best for my dollar for my taxes. I don't care if I go to McDonald's. I mean, I know McDonald's is the greatest food, but if I'm going to pay for a Happy Meal, I'm going to get my toy. so, so I'm just saying, if I'm going to if I'm I don't know, your mom's laughing. If I want the best for I'm paying my politician, do your doggone job, and you're gonna hear me knocking on your door every single day because when white people get mad, their politicians they come to their elected official's job or the office with guns. That's why they're scared, and
Mm.
they're gonna do exactly what other politicians said for them to do. And we have all these black mayors and all these, especially the Black Caucus. Y'all got to do better.
Yeah,
Okay, do better. And black people might sit this one out. Okay,
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's gonna be a hard election. It definitely
yeah.
is gonna be hard. I'm still thinking about
Mhm.
what I'm gonna do. So, and I need to think about it because November is gonna be here very soon. Speaking on Joe Biden, and I see he's already starting his
Yeah,
campaign trail. Speaking at Morehouse, one thing that really stuck out to me when you mentioned him was he told us that we weren't black if we didn't vote for him.
yeah, yeah. Also, yeah,
And I haven't seen anything come
yeah,
out of his term at
also,
all.
yeah, also, he's responsible for the crime bill in 1994. So,
People forget.
never wants to hold him accountable for that. So he has some things he has to atone for. Also, school busing in Massachusetts in that area, that he's also responsible for that too. He always said that he can get along with uh, white supremacists and things like that. And Congress, now Congress is changing, and you got more women in there. You got more Latinos and all kind of people. So our country's going to have to learn how to navigate these things with each other.
Mhm,
And the first atonement's got to do is the black people.
mhm.
Until the color purple. Until you do right by us, nothing's gonna happen. Nothing good gonna come to this country.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna come to this country. I just want y'all to know that black people are hardworking people. They sacrifice, and we are real heroes that are doing the work like you and other people. And I hope the little bit of knowledge I have. I hope it helps those people out there.
Yeah.
But like I said, we have with our phones and technology, you can do research, and even if the person that you vote for doesn't have a chance to win, you can at least say that you did your part.
One thing, because I want to leave on a positive note, because we did say this was a love-hate relationship. So I want to give America its love. It has provided many opportunities for Blacks to excel. I still think the system is flawed because we should have more people in higher places, but it has given us some great inventors. It has given us the opportunity, though maybe not with the good intentions, but it's given us the opportunity to educate ourselves. We have um, several successful people that have done well. You know, we've had Clarence, not, oh God, not him, Lord, not him.
Well, yeah.
We had Thurgood Marshall be able to be put on the Supreme Court. We have Ketanji Brown, who is our first African American woman to be appointed to the Supreme Court. So there are some things that have excelled us. And one of my favorite, and I was just talking about her the other day, one of my favorite judges in Nashville is Allegra Walker.
Mm,
She was, when I spoke with her, she was the person that made me want to be a judge. And
mm.
I thought I would never want to go that route. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't know that I wanted to be a judge until I spoke with her and listening to her stories on why she wanted to become a judge. And she's compassionate, but she's stern, and I think she rules like a auntie getting on to someone. So, and that's what we need. We need that. And I can go on and on and on. Angela Rye, who was one of my favorites. I know some people, you know, they don't care for her, but Ebony Williams, I think she's successful. So all of these Black women have been doing great things in America, and I hope that I can at least live to see a few more people get into their positions.
Well, what I love about America, met your mother in America, so that's each other. Love about America is that my parents taught me the good and the good and the bad of it. I think most Black parents of me and Don's generate our parents who grew up in some Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Mississippi. You know, they raised us with love, but also a little bit of fear, little understanding. When you are, my mother was 21 years old when Emmett Tibbs was taken from his home, and so if her fear, she doesn't hate white people, but uh, as a group, they've done some horrific things.
Mhm,
Uh, the history of lynching and burning us alive, and Emmett Tibbs is just one of many stories. And then they're going on now with no knock warrants and school to prison pipeline, but also Black girls are getting assaulted in school also. So our parents um, taught us the good and the bad. I told you guys to work twice as hard to go half as far. And I also told you, and I'm the military, that when you other people, you smile because you never know what they'll do. So if you see another Black person, at work, just give them a smile, let them know, that
mhm,
we love you. We love. Despite I get mad at Black people and some of the choices we make, I love my Black people. And
mhm.
I wouldn't want to be another race, despite all our cut ups. I know I love my black yellow skin.
I have to say
I
I
can't
love,
control. I
yeah,
can't
you are
control my
yellow.
race. Yeah, yeah. But like I said, my black yellow skin.
Yes. I
Yeah.
have to say I love the unspoken rule of giving a head nod
Oh
to
yeah.
you see another Black person, and while it's always a rivalry of who went to the better HBCU or, you know, who's in a different sorority, even though it's a friendly competition, when we're outnumbered, we do come together.
Yeah.
You know, TSU, Tennessee State University, that's our rival. We do not get along and we're on up the street. But
Mhm.
I guarantee you, if we walk into corporate America and it's just us two there, we don't care that you went to Tennessee State.
Right. Right. Right.
And that goes from my fellow sorority sisters and my Divine Nine sisters. I don't care what colors you wear. I don't care if you wear pink and green, crimson and cream, or blue and white. It doesn't matter. We're all doing the same work, and that's to better our Black community and to serve our Black community. So, and though I have my issues with my sorority, sometimes they do some things I disagree with. I have to say that we do come together when it matters, and we do stick together.
Good
We
thing.
stick together. We see somebody, I see somebody wearing blue and gold, wearing Sigma Gamma Rho on their shirt. I make sure to speak because I don't know if something go down. I know we go have each other's back.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes, that's a good thing to see. I never went to a black college, but your mother told me we went to go into Spelman
Mm,
and Howard. Going to Kentucky State with Courtney Taylor and seeing you at this was, brought joy to my heart because, also with the sacrifices of Frank Henderson and other people that came before us, it made
mm,
me feel good. I know making my mother feel good. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I was able to get a house without having a cross burned in my front yard. Um, you know, but I know that someone sacrificed that for me
Mhm,
to be here. There's also discrepancies when you're trying to sell your home. The value of our home is black people. But I think Dia usually said when he tried to sell his home, he had to take pictures of, did he value his home because he had pictures of black people there. So
mhm.
I
Yeah,
there are still things that I don't really think that the dominant society understands what it's like to be a minority in this country or whatever. I want to give a shout out to podcasters like Karen Hunter. Uh, he has a good podcast, and once again, against the 1619 Project, people that know more than me, and I just give a shout out of that. And I want people when they vote to just really make a educated decision, and even if you want to set out, just have a good reason why, and also voice your opinion. You're a congressman, and get on the nerve. They work for you.
mhm,
You pay taxes, so make sure that you get on them and make sure they do it. And just, I mean, if you got to go to the office, you got to, hey, they had a January 6th, they had an insurrection, so hey, we can have a peaceful one.
mhm,
Go ahead and go there and say, hey, I'm tired of gas prices, tired of food being high, it's the cost of living, and this is for all American people, not just black, for all American people. And, Joe Biden made a promise to help out with the student debt reform, help that out. I so there's so many things that a college should be affordable for all Americans.
mhm,
Even if you can't do it, make sure the community college or trade schools are affordable. And also, I want black people, black men and black women, to stop this infighting stuff about who and all this. Want a man that's six this, six that, whatever. As long as he's an honest, good working man or woman that loves you and love God, you know, and want to make sure that the next generation is doing better than you.
mhm,
That's what's important. I'm not going to be rich. I'm not, but I hope that and I hope that me and your mother instilled something in y'all, be independent and strong black people, and I hope that's what all black people try to instill in their children. Even if you don't get along with the baby daddy, baby mama, make sure that you instill love of each other and love for that child to do better. And that's what I want for us as black people.
well, thank you, Dad.
God bless all y'all, and I love y'all. I love God's people, even though y'all get on my nerve. Amen.
Thanks, Dad.
All right, Courtney.